Welcome back to You Are the Healer. Hey, I am Sydney Rinderknecht. I am your host, and this is the podcast where I use my experience working in mental health and my own mental health experiences to educate, support, encourage, and motivate you to be your own healer, to remind you that you have every single thing needed inside of yourself to heal yourself. Okay, so we're bringing back video. If you're on Spotify or YouTube, hey, you can see my face again. I'm feeling brave to conquer the technical difficulties and attempt video podcasting again. I'm literally just a girl though, so I really hope that this works. This episode is another of the season of the dark side. So, like most of the podcast episodes, I had an idea of what I wanted to record, and something entirely different came through. I am stoked about this episode because I think it is going to be so relatable. This episode, we're going to talk about feeling lost. And before we get into it, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning into this healing message. Thank you if you're a repeated listener. Thank you for coming back. You can hear my cat playing around my apartment right now. If you are new to You Are the Healer, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I thank you for being willing and open to hear a healing message. Oh my gosh, words are hard right now. Recently, I had an experience with credit card fraud that caused so much unnecessary stress and anxiety. I spent hours on the phone and in chats with my credit card company. I had to get 2 different cards before the fraud stopped, and I was so worried about what was going to happen to my money in my bank account. And I sometimes have the fear that it's going to happen again, right? And that's why I'm so excited to introduce You Are the Healer's newest sponsor, Aura, an app for protecting online data and personal information. Cleaning up my information not only helps reduce the amount of spam I get, but it protects me from hackers who could use this information to help them access things like my social media accounts, bank accounts, and other sensitive information. Protecting yourself and your personal information is a form of self-care. I swear. Go to my sponsor, aura.com/healer to get a 14-day free trial and have peace of mind knowing your information is safe. Again, that's Aura, AURA.com/healer for your 2-week free trial. You Are the Healer is sponsored by BetterHelp. Therapy is mandatory because there's absolutely nothing wrong with seeking help. I think every person who walks this earth needs therapy, honestly. I'm stoked to be connected with BetterHelp to offer affordable and accessible therapy resources. The link is in my show notes, and you can also go to betterhelp.com/healer. That's better, HELP.com/healer. Now let's get into this episode. And before we get into the content of today's episode, I want to encourage you, if you are not already subscribed to the podcast, please do so, whether it's on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen. That really helps the algorithm. Please follow me on all social medias. It's always linked in every show notes of the episode. That really helps spread the message. And a very simple thing you can do is post the episode to maybe your Instagram story, or tweet it, or post it on Snapchat, or even just send the link to a friend. And this way, more people can hear the healing message, and that many more people can help heal themselves. We are in a very broken world, and we need as much healing as we can possibly get. Okay, so let's get into feeling lost. Now, this is a topic I feel so called to talk about because I have struggled with feeling lost so much in my life, specifically in these last couple of years. I feel like it's a essential, unavoidable part of the healing journey is feeling lost in. And what do I mean when I say feeling lost? Maybe you don't understand what the content of this episode is even going to be about. Feeling lost, I think you can think about it metaphorically by understanding it physically. So, what is it like to physically be lost? You don't know where you are. Maybe your surroundings are unfamiliar. You don't know where you're going. Maybe you're really scared, or you're really confused because you don't know how to get from where you are to where you want to be, right? And so we can apply those same philosophies to metaphorically and spiritually feeling lost. Maybe we're dealing with a lot of uncertainty in our life. Maybe we don't know what we want out of our lives. We don't know what our purpose here is. We don't know where we're going. We don't know if where we even are, or if where we are is where we want to be. And when I think of feeling lost, I really think of Like you are lacking direction and purpose in your life. And I bring that up on this mental health podcast because feeling lost in that way, lacking purpose, directly leads to symptoms of mental health disorders, right? Depression, anxiety, not knowing what your purpose is in life is distressing. It can lead to depression, anxiety, and a whole number of other things. And so it's something that is I've dealt with it so much on my healing journey that I feel very called to share it with you guys. So we're going to talk about what is being lost. What does it look like? I'll share some experiences that I've felt in my life being lost. And then more importantly, we'll talk about where do we go from here? What do we do? How do we help ourselves? How do we transcend this negative, dark part of life that honestly I truly feel like is inevitable, especially on your spiritual and healing journey? How do we go from something that's uncomfortable, that is uncertain and confusing, and how do we make purpose out of it? How do we make meaning out of it? And how do we become our best, happiest, most healed selves from this place of feeling lost? Let's get into it. I want to start by saying it is entirely natural for humans to want to understand why we were put on this earth. I really love to ponder. It's like one of my favorite pastimes is like, why are we here? And what does this all mean? That is such a normal thing to do as humans. We are curious beings. And sometimes though, all of that pondering and that wondering can lead to a bit of existentialism and a bit of, fear and uncertainty and like, oh my gosh, what does this all mean? And that can be very distressing. So I want to say it's normal to be curious as to what our purpose here is. And also sometimes pondering and thinking too much can lead you down a really negative route. And so I want to talk about when we're feeling lost, I really think of the timeline of our age, right? And the whole concept of midlife crisis and quarter life crisis. That's no coincidence that those are really common terms. And I kind of want to explain why they have to do with feeling lost. Majority of our lives, we are in school and we are with other people who are doing the same exact thing as us. I talked about this in my loneliness episode. So the quarter life crisis is really unique in the sense that pretty much everyone, by the time they're 25 or around their 20s, you're no longer in that traditional school system where you can look around and compare yourself to other people. And so when you don't have that standardized comparison, you really have freedom to do any number of things. I mean, people my age have entire families, people run successful businesses, people speak different languages. Like there are so many ways that your life can go. And it's really when you're at that quarter life crisis era, that's when everything starts to split. And you can really start to ask yourself, like, what am I doing with my life? Is this what I actually want to be doing? Do I care about these things? Like I'm in school. Do I even want to be doing the job that I'll have when I graduate? Those are things that typically come up when you're in your 20s. You're really evaluating like, what the heck do I want? And then with the midlife crisis too, it's a similar thing of midlife crisis. Usually the kids are starting to leave the house if you chose to have kids, or maybe you're starting to retire and you're at that point in the timeline of age when you're asking yourself like, okay, what do I actually want to be doing with my life? Now I have a little bit more free time. Do I even know myself? What do I even like to do? And that is morally distressing. So we are going to talk about how to deal with these thoughts. This episode to me feels a little more like philosophical than like concrete, like here's what you do and this is what this is. But again, I think it's a really important topic when we talk about healing and mental health because like I said, I've struggled with it quite a lot. And something that, I don't know, I thought this was an interesting point to bring up is in my coaching work, I've been getting coached by other nurse coaches and I've explained to them the distress of feeling lost, feeling like I'm so behind. I'm 25, okay? And I have an entire career in nursing and I'm doing all of these other things. I've started a podcast. It's almost been 3 years. Isn't that crazy? Anyways, and I'm starting my own business to be a coach and I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm behind And I remember I was talking to one of my coaches about this, and they were like, Sydney, what are you talking about? They're like, I think you have it all put together. Like, when I see you, I think that you are so ahead of the game, that you are so evolved and mature, and you've really figured it out. And I was baffled when one of my coaches told me this. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't feel that way at all. And so I wanted to touch on this because nobody has it figured out. Literally nobody. No matter what it looks like from the outside, feeling lost is such a normal part of the human experience. It is, again, I feel like it's almost inevitable. Like, everybody at some point will feel lost in their lives. And comparison is one of those things that really makes this whole phenomenon a lot worse for ourselves, because we're not comparing ourselves to other people saying, oh, I'm so much better than them. I have it all figured out compared to them. No, we're comparing ourselves to other people, and we're saying, look at them. They clearly know what they're doing. They totally know what direction they're in, and they have their purpose. A lot of people are figuring it out just like you are. We're faking it till we make it. We're just doing our best. And comparison is one of those things that really exacerbates that feeling of feeling lost and feeling like everybody else knows what they're doing except for you. I promise you, babe, every single person has felt this way at some point. And if not already, then they will. It is inevitable. I know this topic can feel a little bit daunting, a little intimidating. And I also am really excited to talk about it because, like all of these things in this season of the dark side, it is a point of launching off. It is a point of taking something dark and scary and transcending it and using that power, that energy to skyrocket into the best version of yourself. So yeah, feeling lost sucks. It literally sucks. Sometimes it feels like you're floating around and you're like not tethered to anything, and you have no sense of what's up and what's down, and it's scary, and you feel alone in it a lot of the time. And oh gosh, I've just felt this way so many times that I've literally on loop been obsessed with two songs about feeling lost. Lost by Frank Ocean, I'll probably link these in the show notes, and Unlost by The Maine. And I've been obsessed with these songs because I truly resonate to them. I literally almost made a playlist about songs about feeling lost because this is something that I've really struggled with. And our struggles can literally be the key to our success. Tapping into these parts of life, these inevitable, scary parts of life, can help us become the version of ourselves that we want to be. With a lot of healing messages, I love the metaphor of a slingshot. So for this episode, the slingshot example is feeling lost is that thing that's pulling you back, right? It feels tough. You're struggling. You're not, having a good time. You feel very lost and confused. But that point of tension, when it feels really tough and uncomfortable and struggling, that is the point when you release, that you will launch forward and skyrocket into discovering your purpose, discovering your direction, discovering where you want to be in life. And these are ultimately things that are very exciting. Like, you get to determine what your life looks like. And sometimes it takes feeling lost for you to sit and reevaluate and say, okay, where do I want to be? What do I want to be doing? Who am I? And it takes that point of tension, that struggle, to propel you into the next phase of life, which is what we're going to talk about. So how do we make meaning out of our lives? How do we discover our purpose, what we're set here to do? How do we figure out where we want to go? And before we start all of that, I want to say, I could take this episode and talk about how to find your purpose, but I'm not going to, because for a lot of reasons. For simplicity's sake, I want to talk about the one true purpose that we all have on this earth. Every human, everything that's alive, our one purpose is to be. That's it. Our purpose is to be, okay? And yes, we can have many other purposes in life. And I encourage you to find that inside of yourself. Everyone is so uniquely different that I can't sit here and tell you what your purpose is. Even if I know you completely intimately, I still can't tell you what your purpose is, because that is very specific to your own heart and your own calling, okay? But Eckhart Tolle is a king. He's a spiritual author, and I've read a couple books by him. I can't remember which one says this, but he really emphasizes that our purpose is to be. That's it. And what that can look like is whatever you are doing in the present moment, that is your purpose. So right now, as I'm sitting and recording this podcast episode, this is my purpose, is to put my time and energy into this. And when I take a shower today, while I'm showering, that is going to be my purpose. And I know it sounds pretty like woo-woo, but honestly, I like the woo-woo stuff. And I have a feeling that a lot of my listeners like it too. So who cares? So for the sake of this episode, the only purpose you have is to be. And that frees you of a lot of stress and pressure to do certain things and to be a certain way, because you can't get it wrong. You are existing. That is it. You don't have to do anything to be purposeful. Your purpose is to be. Okay, so I want to start that before I get into how do we help ourselves when we're struggling with feeling lost. So we're going to get into some steps into what you can do to help yourself when you feel lost, how to move or how to take this uncertainty, this lack of direction, and use it as a catalyst to get you where you want to be mentally well, and just to be your best self. That's all I'm trying to do, man. Okay, so the first step, which I feel like is the first step for everything, which can be very difficult, is acknowledge that you feel lost. Is being for real with yourself, being honest and saying, okay, I feel really lost right now. And that in itself can be really difficult because it's almost like admitting defeat in a certain type of light. I feel like a lot of times when I think of when people feel lost, it's like when you're in the middle of doing something that you don't feel called to do. Like for instance, if you're in school right now and you don't necessarily feel called to be getting the degree that you're getting or to work the job that you'll end up working once you graduate, it's really freaking difficult to admit to yourself, okay, I'm lost. I don't really know where I'm going with this. I don't necessarily feel like this is the right direction for me. That in itself can be really difficult. But I want to encourage you. There's this thing called the sunken cost fallacy, where it's basically we feel like we've invested so much time into something that we have to see it through or else we'll have wasted time, which doesn't really make any sense, because if you know that you're going in a route towards a route that you don't want to go, let's say it's you're getting a degree in something, let's use that example, and you've already invested 3 years into it, if you're worried about wasting time, if you graduate and you know that that's not what you're going to do, you're inevitably wasting all this time and energy for something that you know is not serving you anyways. But a lot of times in our brains, we're like, I'm already so close, I'm just going to keep going, even if it's in the wrong direction. And that can really contribute to feeling lost. And that can make it really hard to admit to ourselves when we're in this situation. So our first step is to acknowledge that we are feeling lost. Difficult, but you all can do it. I believe in you. The next step we have, which I think is super freaking fun. Like, yes, feeling lost is really scary and like, but on the other side of it is like you get to discover who you are and where you want your life to go, which is so cool. So the second part is get to know yourself, which I love. I've been loving getting to know myself these last couple of years. So what do you like? What do you dislike? Something that I do, and I talk about this on my episode on how to be alone, is I have a master list in my notes of things that I like and dislike. And now I've categorized it by like music, food, people, things like that. And that way I started this list because at one point I was feeling lost and I felt like, who am I? I don't even know what I like and what I dislike. And especially because I used to very much so try to find myself and my purpose and meaning in other people. And so specifically in dating, I would date people and then I would like and dislike everything that they liked and disliked, because I was trying to make meaning of my life and find my own direction. And instead of going inward and asking myself, what do I actually enjoy? I just used the people around me and what they enjoyed and what they don't enjoy. And I thought that meant that that's who I was. Turns out that's incredibly not true. So that's why I started this long list of things I like and dislike, so that way I know myself better. And when you know yourself better, you can make decisions that are more aligned with who you truly are versus what everything else around you says that you should be. You're going to discover yourself by discovering what you like, what you dislike. Also, exploring different hobbies that you enjoy. So things like, this is painful because I'm concussed from my favorite hobby, but I love to snowboard. Snowboarding is such a good hobby that I love it so much. That's why I still come back even when I get injured. Um, I love journaling and writing stories and crafting and playing Dungeons and Dragons. And discovering your hobbies is not only so much fun, like it's awesome to discover things that you like to do. You can also really connect with other people about your hobbies. Maybe you have the same hobby as somebody else and then you can do it together. And it just makes life that much more enjoyable. And also, it just helps you discover things that how you like to spend your time. And if you're feeling lost, you can feel like, I don't even know what I like to do. And discovering hobbies and things that you enjoy is a really helpful tool to move away from feeling lost and move towards a sense of direction. Another thing in getting to know yourself is, what are you passionate about? What are things that light you up? What are things that when you do it, time flies by? And it's important to know these things because when you know what you are passionate about, what lights you up, then you can spend more time doing those things. But if you don't even spend the time to get curious as to what you're passionate about or what interests you, then you're not going to prioritize those things. And there's this quote recently I've heard years ago, but it just keeps coming up for me, especially recently, is if you don't determine what's important to you, the world will do it for you. So if you don't determine what you like, what you want to spend your time doing, then you will take the status quo and that will be how you live. And a lot of times, the status quo, our societal norms, the culture around us isn't entirely who we want to be, where we want to go. It might not feel entirely aligned with us, but if we don't spend time getting to know ourselves, then that will be what we do. It will be what everybody else is doing, what we feel like we have to do. And of course, you're going to feel lost if you're doing a bunch of stuff that you don't even like, that you never even decided to do. You're just kind of going with what everybody else is doing. So, of course, you're going to feel lost if that's what you're doing. So, getting to know yourself, figuring out your likes, what you're passionate about, and then spending time doing those things, even if other people aren't doing them, even if you're the only one doing it, that will help you move towards your purpose and just truly be aligned with who you are. And the next tip I have really adds perfectly on to getting to know yourself is discovering what your values are. And this is discovering what's important to you. What dictates your life? What is a non-negotiable for you and how you operate? So there's tons of values out there. Maybe I'll attach like a list of values just so you can get curious as to what yours are. But for me, a non-negotiable for my life is traveling. I love traveling. I have such an itch to see the entire world that that's a non-negotiable for me. And that's something that I really enjoy about working a nursing schedule, is having 4 days off a week, is that I can really be flexible and travel. So that way, because I know that that's a value for myself, I know that I would never work a 9 to 5, literally never. And I'm glad that I have like the privilege and opportunity to make that decision, because traveling is so important to me that if I were to work a job without flexibility, then I know that I would suffer because I value traveling and exploring and seeing the world so much. Knowing your values and getting clear on your values helps you make decisions for your life. If you don't know what's important to you, it's going to be hard to decide, do I move across the country for this job? Do I stay dating this person? It's knowing your values is so important for all of those little tiny decisions you make and also those really big decisions. And so this is also a really fun thing to discover. It's like, what's important to me? Like, how do I operate? What do I live by? And it's what's so cool is that everybody is so uniquely different that like nobody is going to have the exact same, well, people might have the same values as you. That's relatively common, but everything in your life, all of your experiences, every encounter that you've ever had with someone will lead you to pick certain values. And like, it's just so cool because it's so uniquely different for everybody. And like, all of our lives happened differently. And so that we are all unique in our perspectives. And I don't know, I just think that's cool. That's kind of a little bit of a tangent, but discovering your values is very important. It helps you make decisions. And when you're feeling lost, you feel like you don't know where to go, you don't know how to get there, your values will help settle everything down and make things clear. So getting clear on your values will help you get to where you want to go. All right, the next step, I feel like I say this literally every episode, but it is to quit comparing yourself to other people. That story that I shared about my coach saying, "Oh my gosh, Sydney, I feel like you had it all figured out," while I'm struggling with feeling lost, like, you have no idea what is going on in somebody else's life. And if you're comparing yourself to your perception of what their reality is, it's not accurate. And it's just going to hurt yourself. So quit comparing yourself. Another way that we compare ourselves that I talk about all the time is social media. So I won't go on my tangent about how harmful it is for our mental health, but really be mindful of your social media use. And if you decrease your social media use, you will be comparing yourself less. And then ideally, and like logically, you will be feeling lost less because you're not spending time measuring up to other people. Another thing that really helps with feeling lost is getting grounded. So I think something that contributes to feeling lost and uncertain and kind of aimless is spending a lot of times in our heads. And getting grounded is a quick solution to bring us out of our mind and into our body. So there's tons and tons of ways to get grounded. I have an entire episode on mindfulness and gratitude. They're really like early episodes, but if you want to learn more about that, there's more resources out there for you. But getting grounded can look different for everybody. I know for me, getting grounded looks like meditating, doing yoga, journaling, touching grass, being outside, things like that. And so getting grounded in that way can really help decrease those symptoms. The next step I have is to really get curious. What type of life do you want to live? What do you want to be doing? What do you want out of life in general? And these are great things to journal on, just to even ponder on and think about. And then the next step I have is to get clear on your dream life. And it's important to do all of the other steps I mentioned first, because when we're feeling lost, we really feel uncertain. And so getting to know your values, the things that you like, admitting that you're lost, things like that have to happen before you can dream up your dream life. Because if you're feeling lost, it's because you don't know where you want to go or where you are or where you want to be. So follow those steps that I listed earlier, or honestly, whatever works for you. And then this is the really fun part, is like, use your imagination and dream up literally anything that you want. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of a visualization. So what I want you to do is get comfortable, ideally in a seat or an intentional space. If you're driving, maybe just be mindful. Obviously, pay attention to whatever you're doing if you're not in a space to visualize. But if you're able to, I would love for you to close your eyes and take a big, deep breath in. And we're going to get curious on your dream life. So I want you to ponder, if you were handed $500 million, what would you do? I know I would buy a camper van and go see the world. But if you had as much money as you could possibly need, what would be different about your life? What would you spend your time doing? Who would you be with? What does a typical Tuesday look like in this dream life, where money's not an issue, everything goes your way? And I want you to get as specific as possible. What time do you wake up? What do you wear? Who are you with? And just get as crystal clear on that vision as you possibly can. Now take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale. And I want you to feel what this dream life version of you feels like. How does your body feel? You feel light, flexible, energized, excited? Just really sit with the feeling of what your dream life version of you feels. Maybe they feel empowered. Maybe they feel in charge. Maybe they feel relaxed. and rested or free. And maybe you can feel them dancing around or the warmth in their chest from excitement or happiness. And whenever you find those feelings, just sit with them and let them wash over you. And feel it right now in this present moment as if it's true. And if your mind wanders, bring it back to the breath and back to that feeling of your dream self. A deep breath in through your nose. And when you exhale, ground yourself in the truth that this reality is as real as anything else. This dream life that you just pictured is absolutely possible for you. If it is a vision in your head, if you can picture it, if you can feel it, it is a reality that you can tap into in this physical world. I promise you. Another deep breath in. When you exhale, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, shake out your arms, do whatever you need to do to come back into this present moment. Visualization is a fantastic tool with mental health, anything. And I hope that that exercise helped you get a little bit more clear as to where you want to go in your sense of purpose and direction in life. And there are endless amounts of visualizations, ways to tap into your imagination that are really helpful for crafting your dream life. Just literally Google it. It's on YouTube. There's tons of resources out there. I've really found a lot of fulfillment in utilizing my imagination when it comes to picturing where I want to be in my dream life. And so I really hope that helped you. And the last tip that I have on how to feel unlost is it's not that serious. I know that I just went through some actionable tips to help you. And at the same time, we are on an orbiting rock that has only been around for a little bit of time in the grand scheme of history. And I say this out of, I want to encourage and inspire you to be free, not to freak you out, but you'll be dead in 100 years. Most people won't remember you. There's so much stuff that we make a big deal about in this life that does not matter. So I want to remind you that it is not that serious. It is not that serious. Everything is going to be okay. Also, everything is temporary. So do whatever the hell you want. I hope that this lands and resonates with how I'm intending it to. We spend so much of our lives making things complicated and freaking out about stuff that doesn't matter. And when I say it doesn't matter, I don't mean that it's not important or it's not significant. I mean that in the grand scheme of things, everything's going to be okay, regardless of all of these things that you're worrying about. Everything's going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And at the same time, our time on this earth is so short and so temporary. And all of these things that you're worrying about, babe, it is not that big of a deal. Okay? And I say this to free you because if you realize, oh wait, this isn't that big of a deal, I can do whatever I want. That frees you. That lets you know that the world is your oyster. You can literally do whatever you want and it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Okay? So I want to leave you with that because feeling like we don't know what our purpose is, we don't know what our meaning is here on this earth, it's okay. Because ultimately, we will all die. And I say this with the utmost love and respect, that we will all die and you can do whatever you want with the limited amount of time that you have here. Okay? Do whatever lights you up, whatever sets your soul on fire. Even if nobody else is doing it with you, it is a dream on your heart for a reason. You are called to do certain things for a reason. And just ultimately everything is so temporary. And that is a gift. That is a gift. It frees us that we can explore, we can experiment, we can have fun, we can do whatever we want with our lives. And that's the exciting part about, I feel like with a lot of healing messages, it's like there's the dark, heavy stuff, and then there's the fun, transcendent other side of it. So when we feel lost and purposeless, we get to explore that for ourselves and we get to figure it out, and it's fun and it's exciting. So I just wanted to leave you with that. I know it's a little pessimistic and a little nihilistic, but you can do whatever you want and it doesn't matter. Okay, and that's very exciting and it frees you up. So I just wanted to leave you with that. Thank you so much for listening to this message. I love you so, so, so much. This podcast lights me up. It's one of those things I'm passionate about. If you can, please share this message with anyone you think it'll resonate with. We all have felt lost at some point. Follow me on all the social medias, subscribe to the podcast, leave a review. If you're feeling spicy, that would be awesome. And until next time, I love you so much. I send you so much love and support on your healing journey. May you be well.